So, we are back to Amitabha. It was interesting at the Southern Poverty Law Center. I get their newsletter, and the one that they sent out after I gave the talk yesterday talked about the very same thing. Yeah. Okay, so 39. If I should attain Buddhahood, yet humans and heavenly beings in my land would not enjoy happiness like that of a bhikshu who has eradicated his fetters, may I not attain perfect awakening. Okay? So, yeah, may all the human beings, the celestial beings in his Pure Land, okay, if they don't enjoy the same happiness as a monk or a nun who has eradicated all the fetters, all the pollutants that keep them from attaining liberation, then may I not attain perfect awakening. Okay, so this is really a statement for how superior the happiness of liberation is to ordinary happiness. Yeah, because if these human beings and devas who have extraordinary sense pleasure, happiness, and so much, they can snap their fingers and externally what they want happens, but they don't experience anywhere near the happiness and internal peace and joy that an ordained person who has attained liberation experiences. Okay, so it's really saying, think about the different kinds of happiness and, what kind of happiness do we want? Because sometimes we're really just addicts to worldly happiness and worldly pleasure, and it comes and it goes, and in the process we create a lot of destructive karma. But the happiness that comes from our internal spiritual practice is much superior. Okay? And it's specifically pointing out a monastic who experiences that, because being a monastic makes it easier to attain the realizations, because you're keeping good ethical conduct. Yeah, and so when you're creating merit through ethical conduct, when you're not creating destructive karma that blocks realizations, then automatically it becomes easier to practice and to advance on the path. Then number 40, should I not attain Buddhahood, whenever bodhisattvas in my land wish to see the immeasurable number of pure or adorned Buddha lands of the 10 directions, they would fulfill their wish right then and see all of them reflected in jeweled trees, just like seeing the image of one's face in a clear mirror. If this should not be the case, may I not attain perfect awakening. Okay, so the bodhisattvas in Amitabha's Pure Land, whenever they wish to see the immeasurable number of pure ordained Buddha lands in the 10 directions, okay, so all these Buddha lands established by all these Buddhas in all the different directions, so if that wish of theirs isn't fulfilled right then and there, such that they see all these Buddha fields reflected in the jeweled trees, just like seeing the image of your face in the mirror, if that doesn't happen, may Amitabha says, may I not attain awakening. So that means that when you're in that Pure Land, if you want to see all these other Buddha fields and show respect to those Buddhas, make offering to the Buddhas, generate faith in all those Buddhas, and if wishing to do that and to perceive them, if you can't see them right away, just by, looking, because the trees are made of jewels, so you look in the jeweled leaves and they show the reflections of all these Pure Lands. Okay, so that enables you to have that very, that mind that's full of faith and hope and optimism. You know, at the beginning, when we hear some of these things about, you know, seeing Buddha lands and traveling to Buddha lands and making magnificent offerings, some people really get into it. You know, I wasn't somebody who really got into that so much. But then when I compare, when I do visualize the Buddha lands and making offerings and beauty and showing respect to the three jewels, when I imagine that, yeah, there's a shift in my mind that doesn't occur when if I watch television or if I listen to music or if I, go to a sporting event or if I go to a party or something like that. There's a shift in the mind that happens when you see holy beings and can connect with them either through bowing and showing respect or making offerings, that it gives us hope and it gives us faith. Yeah? Are you getting what I mean? Does that happen in you too? Yeah, some people yes, some people straight-faced. But, you know, when you think of how reactive we are to people around us and how reactive we are to our environment, and not always in a good way, yeah, then compare that with if you imagine being in a Buddha land and making offerings to the Buddhas. Yeah, how are you going to respond to that situation? Yeah, internally, your whole feeling is going to be quite different. It's very different than watching the news. Okay, so if you think that the visualization doesn't have any effect, that it's just superfluous conceptualization that people invented, you know, play with it and see how it changes your mind and how it changes your mood. You know, because if we sit there and, you know, visualize the war in Syria, it affects us one way. If we sit there and visualize Amitabha's Pure Land, it affects us in a totally different way. Okay? And that mind of faith and joy is a very powerful mind because it is eager to practice and it finds it easy to concentrate. Okay? So that's the advantage of looking at the Buddha lands and these jeweled trees. Okay, then 41. If I should attain Buddhahood, yet all the multitudes of bodhisattvas in lands of other directions who hear my name would suffer any lack or imperfection in their faculties at any time before attaining Buddhahood, may I not attain perfect awakening. So here he's making a very strong resolve to be of benefit not only to the people in his own Pure Land, but to all the multitude of bodhisattvas everywhere in the universe. Okay, so for all those multitudes of bodhisattvas in lands of other directions, yeah, who hear the name of Amitabha, yeah, who just, you know, even think of Amitabha, think of that Pure Land, think of the compassion that Amitabha had to establish a Pure Land like that, where ordinary beings like us could get reborn. Because most of the Pure Lands, you have to be an Arya being in order to be reborn there. To really, if these bodhisattvas think of what Amitabha's kindness, and if they if they suffer any lack or imperfection in their faculties, so if their sense faculties don't work properly, if they have any kind of illness or injury that impedes their practice, then Amitabha's, saying, may I not attain Buddhahood. Okay, in other words, that those bodhisattvas who have that contact and look upon Sukhavati that way, all their faculties will be helpful, and it will be very easy for them to practice. Okay, then 42. If I should attain Buddhahood, all the multitudes of bodhisattvas in lands of other directions who hear my name would fully attain the samadhi of pure liberation. They would abide in this samadhi, and as soon as they think of honoring immeasurable, inconceivable Buddhas, world-honored ones, with offerings, they would accomplish this within a thought, without losing their state of concentration. If this should not be the case, may I not attain perfect awakening. Okay, so all those multitudes of bodhisattvas in all the pure lands of other directions, and it looks like even in common worlds too, it just says lands, it doesn't say Buddha lands. So if they hear Amitabha's name, yeah, and if they don't attain this samadhi of pure liberation, which means that they're able to combine serenity and insight and progress along the bodhisattva path to gain Buddhahood, eliminating all the defilements, generating all of these good qualities. So if they don't gain that samadhi and, are able to practice on the path like that, as soon as they think of honoring immeasurable, inconceivable Buddhas, world-honored ones with offerings, so there they are in the samadhi and they're progressing along the path and eradicating defilements, but they sometimes take a break from the collection of merit and do the collection of wisdom, and so at that time they think of all these other inconceivable Buddhas throughout the universe, and they want to make offerings to them to show their respect, to show their to pay reverence, because these Buddhas are such a role model, and these Buddhas have such incredibly pure minds that, they want to develop too. So if they're not able to within a thought, accomplish making all these offerings, despite being in their samadhi of liberation, then Amitabha is saying, may I not attain perfect awakening. So that means that, he's going to really help all these other bodhisattvas, because on the bodhisattvas, as they're going through, once they've realized emptiness, as they're going through the different bhumis, the different stages, they have to keep on with the collection of merit and the collection of wisdom. They don't just meditate on emptiness all the time. They spend a lot of time benefiting sentient beings and making offerings and doing devotional practices, because that helps to purify the mind and accumulate merit. And so, Amitabha wants to help them do this, specifically by enabling them to see all these other Buddha lands with the Buddhas and have the thought to pay respect and make offerings there. Okay, so you can see how you can see. Oops, I marked it in the wrong place. We can see here how important these kinds of practices are, to purify the mind, and that it's not just study, it's not just meditation, it's service and it's devotional practices, and then, of course, the study, the contemplation, the meditation. But we need to develop many different aspects of our mind. As His Holiness says, our mind is something very complicated and complex. So just one practice isn't going to change all of the different aspects of our mind that need to be enriched and or purified. Okay. So, although it's talking about these devotional practices here, remember that from the sides of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they don't need this kind of thing. Okay, we like praise. We like people to give us presents. We like people to tell others how wonderful we are and how great we are and how fabulous we are, and to praise us to our face and praise us behind our back. We like that kind of stuff, yeah. But the bodhisattvas have no need of it. They see it as just kind of, well, actually, from their side, they see it as superfluous, but they rejoice in the fact that other people do that, because they realize that when other people praise those worthy of praise, that those other people have virtuous mental states and they're accumulating merit. And so they rejoice in that way due to the fact of somebody else having a virtuous mental state.